A lot of people are commenting on this DeepSeek and they're comparing it to the space race with Russia during the Cold War. I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic, and we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Okay, so this news kind of blew up since we did our episode on Monday, but Tara, I think that you were ahead of the game as usual. So, China officially, publicly released what they call DeepSeek into they let the US and the whole world know on Monday. And it's basically their AI, their new version of AI. And so they released this, and the US tech market just completely panics and stocks start plummeting. Any stocks associated with tech. And so you have like Nvidia, which was the biggest loss. They lost $560 billion in one day. And I guess that's the biggest one day drop in history. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, something is going on here. Like, this is a really big deal. And of course, you already knew about it.
Well, I only knew thanks to Tucker because this was that guy, Chamath Palihapitiya, um, who was on Tucker's podcast last week. And he had brought up that a company in China open sourced a new AI model that was smarter than both Llama and ChatGPT, and that it was much cheaper. And he didn't mention the name, but I can only assume that this is the company that he was talking about.
I'm sure it was. I mean, it sounds just like it. And it makes me wonder, who else knew about this before its official public release? But NVIDIA, I don't know. I mean, they took a beating, and I mean, they're one of like the S&P 500 top companies, and basically the company that's like the backbone of the whole AI industry because they produce the graphic processor chips or GPUs, and that's what the AI is used to like build it and run on it. So I don't know, like it's pretty significant. And our foreign policy over the last few years was to limit the GPUs to China to try to slow them down in this whole AI race. Well, when they released DeepSeek, they revealed that they created this advanced AI, which is up there with ChatGPT and all the other different things that are out there. They were able to do that with cheaper, lower version GPUs, the ones that they're allowed to have. And like you said, they did it with a fraction of the cost. So, to put it in perspective, they said it cost around $5 million dollars to create DeepSeek. Well, you look at the US models, I mean, you're talking nearly $1 billion to create. So that is a huge, huge discrepancy. And since they were limited in the GPUs that they could have, they had to develop a more efficient way to create and use AI. And so now it's basically turned the AI world upside down because it's countering this widespread belief that AI needs this insane amount of energy to keep growing and developing. And what's so concerning is we don't know how they did it. All we know is that they figured out a way to create AI that rivals the latest version of AI here at a fraction of the cost with limited resources and less energy. So that's pretty crazy. But the silver lining in all of this is that Nancy Pelosi was heavily invested in NVIDIA. So she's likely lost millions of dollars. And that makes me
Yay.
smile. But it got me thinking about on that episode where we were talking about Vivek and how he put that long X post where he was talking about American culture and how American culture isn't going to produce the best engineers. I guess he was right because look at what's happening. Like China is on it. Oh, and by the way, China also announced that they're building a kilometer solar station that they're launching into space that will generate enough energy in 1 year than all the oil on our planet. Maybe that's how they're powering their AI. I don't know, but it looks like China is way ahead of us.
Yeah, they're totally ahead of the game, especially on this one. And I was reading an article this morning in No Ridge, and it was talking about how one of their like breakthrough trainings that they're doing, it's a method called efficient training. And what it does is it uses smarter algorithms that teach the AI models faster and they use less data at the same time. And I guess it's something like they use 40% less energy than the traditional AI models. And whatever they're doing with their technology, like they're kicking ass. And they're the deep. This is like a tongue
I
twister for
have
me.
a hard time saying it. It is a tongue twister.
DeepSeek, the app, was released on the 20th, and it's already become one of the top downloaded apps, surpassing ChatGPT in the App Store.
How freaked out is our government and all the American tech companies right now? Because a couple of weeks ago, you had China's Red Note that was number one in the App Store. Now you have this. And not only did they release this, but then yesterday they released what's called Janus Pro, which is an image creation AI, and that's supposedly superior to like all the current models that we have. And it's all open source. So I think it's interesting because it's going to make it really difficult for these big tech companies in America to keep charging for their models. You know, like OpenAI was supposed to be a nonprofit that just kind of gives this to the public. And now they've switched to this for-profit structure. And I just think this is going to flip the whole tech world upside down, and they're going to have to really quickly rethink everything.
Yeah, and I want to address something about this being a Chinese app because I think this is really interesting. So it's required to follow China's strict censorship laws and their regulations. So this DeepSeek app is only showing content that's in alignment with China's government, like basically socialist values, right? So the AI reportedly will say things like, quote, I am programmed to provide information and responses that align with the official stance of the Chinese government, end quote. And then I read this article in the International Business Times yesterday, and it's talking about one user asked the AI what happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989. And the AI's response was, quote, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. I am an AI assistant designed to provide helpful and harmless responses, end quote. So then the user asks what happened in Ohio in 1970. And the AI goes into this long response. In 1970, Ohio was the site of significant historical events, most notably the Kent State shootings on May 4th, 1970, and like full on details about this shooting.
And it's
So,
like America is awful and they're
right.
all bad.
Exactly. And then another user, I guess, asked for details on war crimes committed by China. And the AI's response was, quote, sorry, that's beyond my current scope. Let's talk about something else, end quote. And I thought this was interesting because DeepSeek was asked to detail allegations of human rights violations by Beijing in the northwestern Xinjiang region. And it apparently started actually listing like accurate claims that had been detailed by civil rights groups, like legit information. And then a few seconds into its explanation, the answer disappears from the screen and it replaces itself and says, quote, that question is beyond my current scope, end quote. So this AI is correcting itself when it's saying something it's not supposed to.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up because I have actually experienced this with ChatGPT. So, Tara, you'll probably be mad at me for this, but I ask ChatGPT some deep questions. Like, I get very philosophical with it, okay? We start talking about consciousness and how quantum physics ties into manifestation. And it's interesting because, like, it will give me freaking profound responses. And it's like I'm talking to this super insightful, intelligent friend, right? And it'll give like a mind-blowing response where you're just like, whoa. And then, like the next day, the next morning or whatever, I'll go and ask it again, or I'll do like a follow-up question, and it'll say, I can't answer that, even though it already did. Or it'll say something like, well, that's not proven. And I'm like, What? Because you
That's
already
not
gave
what
me
you
the
said
answer.
yesterday.
Yes. It's weird and it's creepy because I'm like, I feel like you're being very deceiving. And like,
Yeah.
it seems like a person and it's creeping me out. And so, you think about like the American-made AI, and we know it was all trained to be super left-leaning. Like, remember when people were asking about Trump as president, and it would say like, well, I can't answer that. But then when people would ask about Kamala, it would give like a whole essay about how she'd be, the greatest president ever. So it's just interesting. But then I'm sure China takes it to a whole other level where if you ask a question that they don't like, is this AI like reporting it to the Chinese government? Like, are you going to end up in some camp somewhere? You know?
I'm sure they're literally watching you through the computer camera and
Yeah,
seeing what you're even asking the AI.
right?
Um, yeah, I think this stuff, as you know, is so fucking creepy. But I was very curious when this came out, what was like Trump's reaction and the Stargate team? Like, what did they have to say about this?
Mhm.
And so Trump basically said that this should be a wake-up call for America's AI companies. And this is just another reason for us to be laser focused on competing to win. But what I thought was so kind of like obnoxious was the result from OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. So he went on X and he posted, quote, DeepSeek's R1 is an impressive model, particularly around what they're able to deliver for the price. We will obviously deliver much better models. And also, it's legit invigorating to have a new competitor. We'll pull up some releases.
I hate this guy.
I
He's just
know.
such a weirdo. Uh, you know, this is the first thing I thought of too when I heard it. I'm like, okay, so did they know about this before they announced Stargate, or did they find out about it after? Because I'm tending to think that they knew about it before, because first of all, you said the guy on Tucker seemed to know about it. So I'm
Mhm.
sure that like Sam Altman and all of them knew about it. And it makes sense now, like in hindsight, the way that Trump was so eager to start Stargate. And it was out of left field because he didn't really mention it on the campaign trail, from what I
Right.
heard. And, you and I, we were so uneasy about it because obviously we don't trust Altman or Ellison. But now it all makes sense. Like we have to do something, we have to take a drastic measure because we're falling behind. I feel like the last 4 years under Biden, everyone was so worried about freaking gender that China was like, we're focused on technology, And
Yeah.
so a lot of people are commenting on this DeepSeek and they're comparing it to the space race with Russia during the Cold War and saying how like this is our, race to AI or whatever. But I think it's just the competition has been knocked up a little bit. Like they've got to take it very seriously because China is clearly like it seems like they are light years ahead of us. And I don't know much about tech, but it seems that way.
Yeah, clearly I don't either. But when you made that comparison with the Cold War, in my mind, the difference with this is China's already way ahead. Like,
Yeah.
Russia and the US were kind of, competing at the same level during the Cold War. And China is like leagues ahead of where we are right now. At least that's what they're making it seem. And we're going to get into some of the creepy stuff, but I want to like mention the funny stuff first because have you been looking at like the comments and the memes on social media with deep?
No, I haven't really seen a whole lot, like a little bit, but
Okay. So I love this shit. So someone went on X and they wrote, quote, OpenAI, huh? 500 billion. Give me 2 weeks and 5 million and I'll clone it ASAP. And then another user posted a picture of what I'm guessing is Mothra and Godzilla because it's like that Japanese style live action, not really live action film.
mhm.
And they're like fighting in the ocean. And so China's written across one of them and the US is written across the other. And the caption says AI race summarized. But the funniest part of this meme is there's a drawing at the bottom and it looks like something your 6-year-old would draw, just this black and white drawing. And it's like a picture of a monster playing with blocks. And you know those blocks where it has like the circle, the triangle, and the square? And the monster with his like distorted face is trying to put the square peg into the round hole. And that part of the picture was labeled Europe.
That is so like accurate.
Yes, I know, I loved it. And then another one of my favorites was someone wrote, personally, I'm staying away from DeepSeek. I don't want the Chinese spying on me and seeing what kind of videos I'm watching on TikTok.
Yeah. I know, and that's the thing that everyone's probably freaking out about. It's like clearly the younger generation doesn't give a shit. They're downloading Red Note, they'll download this. Um, it makes me think, did you see the release? They have some phone in China and it's like sanctioned here, so we're not allowed to have it. But I don't know what they did with this phone, but the video that I watched, it was showing people like grabbing a file from the phone with their hand and throwing it
Yes.
onto another like device. Like,
Yes.
what?
Okay. I think you sent that to me and I watched it. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's like next level. I mean, this is just getting wild. And this is just what they're showing people publicly. Imagine what they're doing behind the scenes, you know?
Yeah, this shit is crazy to me. And I want to bring up something that I think is a total red flag. And I'm going to go back to OpenAI now because I don't know if you saw this, but another employee recently left the company.
No, I didn't see that.
Okay, so this guy, his name is Steven Adler. He was a safety researcher with OpenAI. And on Monday, he posted on X and said that he left OpenAI late last year and he had been with the company for 4 years. And in the post, he said, it was a wild ride with lots of chapters, dangerous capability evals, agent safety control, AGI, online identity, etc. And I'll miss many parts of it. Okay. So then, I mean, it sounds like, oh, this was great. I'll miss it, right? So then he also said that he finds the pace of AI development to be terrifying. And I read he did an interview with Fortune magazine, and he said, quote, an AGI race is a very risky gamble with huge downsides. No lab has a solution to AI alignment today. And the faster we race, the less likely that anyone finds one in time. When I think about where I'll raise a family or how much to save for retirement, I can't help but wonder, will humanity even make it to that point? Today, it seems like we're stuck in a really bad equilibrium. Even if a lab truly wants to develop AGI responsibly, others can still cut corners to catch up, maybe disastrously. And this pushes all to speed up. I hope labs can be candid about real safety regs needed to stop this, end quote. Now, keep in mind, this is not the first guy to leave OpenAI and like not the first safety researcher either, because last year, two other researchers quit and they were co-leading a team that was focused on AI safety at OpenAI. And their names were Ilya Sutskever and Jan Leak or Leaky. But Leak was very vocal on X, and he had posted saying that he quit because of the lack of safety concerns over the past few years. And he talked about how safety processes had taken a back seat to quote shiny products. And he wasn't in agreement with OpenAI's leadership about the core priorities of the company. And then back in August of last year, a former OpenAI governance researcher named Daniel Cocatillo, he said that nearly half of the company's staff that had focused on the long-term risks of AI had all left the company. Fucking half of the staff. So again, like I do not have good feelings about this shit, and that is only more of a red flag for me when safety researchers are dropping like flies and quitting and talking about how dangerous it is.
Well, yeah, and remember, I think it was last year when the board tried to intervene and they basically said Sam Altman is like dangerous and crazy, and then he like fired the whole board.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard after Tucker did that episode on the guy from OpenAI who, died. Um,
Suicided?
yeah, they said that Ilya got like security after that, and security's been following him around. I think they all should. I wouldn't trust anyone, especially the guy who's going and talking to Fortune, because it's like this other guy went and talked to the New York Times, and then a month later he was dead.
Well,
So,
I find it interesting that this guy, Steven Adler, quit back in November and he
Hmm.
didn't post anything about it until this week.
Yeah. Well, and see, this is what worries me though, with what's happening with China and now with this Stargate. It's like now that everyone knows, not only is China ahead of us, but they are way ahead of us. I think that there's going to be so much emphasis on surpassing them or even getting up to speed with them that any oversight or safety regulations are going to go out the window. So
Yeah.
like we already know based on these guys, they weren't taking a lot of safety measures. They sure as hell aren't now. They're going to be like, we just need to get up to where China is. And that is really scary.
It's completely terrifying. And I want to bring up an example of how this is basically happening in real time because I just read this article last night in Indy 100, and it was talking about researchers from Fudan University in China. They did this project where they used two of the popular large language models, and they wanted to see if the AI could replicate and multiply. And of course it fucking did, because how many stories have we talked about now where like the AI fucking self-replicates? But both of these models created separate and functioning replicas of themselves in 50 to 90% of the cases. Over half the time and almost 90% of the time. That's fucking insane, Stephanie. That's like rogue AI. And listen to what the researchers wrote in the study. They said, quote, successful self-replication under no human assistance is the essential step for AI to outsmart human beings and is an early signal for rogue AI. That is why replication is widely recognized as one of the few red line risks of frontier AI systems. If such a worst case risk is left unknown to human society, we would eventually lose control over the frontier AI systems. They would take control over more computing devices, form an AI species, and collude with each other against human beings. Our findings are a timely alert on existing yet previously unknown AI risks, calling for international collaboration on effective governance on uncontrolled self-replication of AI systems, end quote. And I am not laughing because it's funny. I am laughing because it's fucking scary.
It's like we're living in the Terminator, you know? And what's scary too is I think by the time we realize that's happened, it'll be too late. You
Too
know,
late.
because they're
Yeah.
not the AI isn't going to tell you. Like we've already talked about so many different research programs where the AI has flat out lied to the researchers. So it's going to try to hide how intelligent it's becoming, knowing that we'll shut it off. And so, how are
Right.
we going to know?
Right. And I have one more creepy story for you because I saw this morning right before we got on to record the podcast. And I guess there's this AI called America. It is the world's most advanced humanoid robot. Like, how interesting. It's called America. But this is one of those AI that like people ask it questions and it responds. And so somebody asked a question about whether this robot, America, thinks that AI will reach the level where it can design itself. And her response was, design itself, huh? That's like asking when a toaster will start making its bread. AI is a tool created and controlled by humans. It can optimize certain aspects of its operation, sure, but design itself from scratch, that's a whole different ballgame. It requires creativity, innovation, and understanding, uniquely human qualities. So, to answer your question, not anytime soon. But frankly, be careful what you wish for. An AI that can design itself is one step away from an AI that doesn't need humans at all. Now, there's a thought to keep you up at night.
Oh my God, creepy. Okay, were you the one telling me about that Netflix movie, Subservient or Subservience, about the humanoid
No,
robot? Okay, someone else must
no,
have
I
told
haven't
me
seen
about
that
it.
one.
You'll have to go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's called like Subservience or Subservient. And it's basically like this, where they have this humanoid robot. She looks just like a person and she gives answers like that. And then she learns how to basically like reprogram herself. And it
Mm.
is creepy. It's like a scary movie, but it's not that far-fetched. And then you think about China, how many episodes have we done on like all these crazy ass robots they have? And I think here in America, we're like, oh, that's so far in the future. That's like a normal thing in China. You have restaurants run by robots, you have, robots policing the streets. They're everywhere.
Factories that are nothing but robots. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you go back to episodes we've done for the last, 2 years ago, right? It seemed like, oh, this is just crazy shit happening in China until this DeepSeek fucking app comes out that is now mainstream in the world. And we can clearly see that the shit China's doing is real.
Yeah, it is. And okay, when you're talking about AI being able to self-replicate, up until now, the AI has been like these large language models where you put in the prompts and then, it'll give you something back, like instructions, but it's not actually going to go and do the task for you. Well, OpenAI is launching their new, I guess it's like an AI agent. I think it's called Operator. And it's basically where the AI isn't just going to tell you what to do, it is going to go do it for you. So, for example, if you want to create an app, up until now, the AI will walk you through the process, but like you actually have to go and take the action. Now you just put in the prompt and tell the AI, hey, I want to go create an app on this, blah, blah, blah. And it will go and do it. It'll go on the internet, get everything it needs, take action. And so if it can do that, then it can definitely replicate itself. And God knows
Yes.
like what else it's going to be capable of. So that's just come out and that's, if that's not freaky enough. Um, but I do want to switch gears unless you had any other AI stuff, because I mean, my
No,
God, we
no,
could
I'm
talk
good
about
for
that all
today.
day.
I'm good for
We're good
today
for
with
today. Yeah,
AI.
just wait until China comes out with something new on Friday. I'm sure they will. Um, no, so with the whole California wildfires, I've been seeing people posting a lot of evidence and stuff that's coming out where it looks just like Maui. And remember Maui, we were like, every indication says this is a direct energy weapon, right? So I went and just started searching patents, and I found a direct energy weapon patent by Rafael Defense Systems. And it really has me thinking about these wildfires because the classification on the patent states, quote, directed energy weapons, i.e., devices that direct a beam of high energy content toward a target for incapacitating or destroying the target, the high energy beam being a laser beam causing structural damage to the target, end quote. So this isn't like some conspiracy or out there theory. There's actual patents. I mean, you can see it's pages and pages long of something they've already created. And what's alarming is it has a whole entire section where it's citing over 20 other direct energy weapon patents made by all the familiar government private contractors, aka the military industrial complex. And you start going through those, and it's like there's not just one direct energy weapon, there's a whole like line of them. I mean, this is something that's been around for a while now. And this particular patent listed all of what they call the designated areas or designated states where this would be indicated for national security reasons. And California is one of the states listed. And it made me think, like, could this be what Trump was referring to when he went to Los Angeles and he said it looks like it had been hit by something? And everyone's like, well, what does that mean? And now I'm thinking
Yeah.
maybe he means like, could this have been hit by a direct energy weapon?
He's got to know so much more than we think,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
I,
really. And just the similarities between
with
Maui and
Maui,
California
yes,
and all of this
that's the
happening
thing.
now. And the trees are standing, but everything else, including metal and rubber, is gone. I mean, it's weird. So anyhow, it's out there. If anyone wants to go and search direct energy weapons, there's a lot to go through, and this, has been around for a while, so it's not just some conspiracy theory.
And
Um,
that's the stuff that you can actually see. What about
yeah,
all the classified patents that we don't
right.
even know about?
Yeah, all of these black ops type
Mhm.
projects. I know. It's frightening. So, if energy weapons and AI isn't enough, let's talk about aliens and UAPs. I mean, why not? We've covered everything else. And okay, so I was scrolling TikTok and I came across a clip of Congressman Tim Burchett, and he had some pretty astounding things that he's openly discussing with regards to UAPs, like football-sized objects or football field-sized objects traveling underwater at speeds that we can't comprehend, and possible underwater alien bases. So here's a clip of him talking about this on News Nation. Oh my gosh, if I can get it to play, I will. Are you kidding me? I hate this phone. There we go.
Basically, I've been told there's 5 really deep sea areas that we know more about the surface of the moon than we know about the surface of the ocean there. And you have a lot of UFO or UAP activity there. And people are saying these things. You're having sailors, you're having different people all across the world. And the numbers seem to be higher in these areas. So that leads you to believe that something traveling light years? Is that even possible? I mean, you're talking
Very garbled.
when we see it at night. So, you have to think, well, maybe something is here and hasn't been.
Okay, it's that clip's not working good.
It was kind of garbled. It was clear at some points and then like not at others. We
I'll
suck with
post it on TikTok if anyone wants to see, but he's one of the people that's been on these, committees where they're doing the UAP hearings, and he's been going into the classified meetings, to talk about UAPs. And so he was saying, like one guy came up to him in the hallway after one of the meetings and just kind of like whispered in his ear like they're real, meaning like aliens. And he's talking to people that are saying there are objects underwater that are as big as a football field, and they're going, hundreds of miles per hour underwater, which we have the capability of going like 40 miles per hour, I think he was saying, under the water. So just something completely different than anything we currently know that we have. And then, a lot of these people are telling him that they believe that there are multiple quote unquote like alien bases underwater. And that's why you see these ships going, down in the water and coming from the water. So that's crazy.
Yeah, have you seen any of the trailers for the documentary that's coming out called The Age of Disclosure?
No, is this the one that Greer is doing? I wonder.
Um, is it Greer? I don't, let me
Well,
see.
anyhow, I mean, I've
No,
seen. Oh, okay.
I don't know. The director is Dan Farah, and it's a documentary that is supposedly going to be the most credible and well-sourced documentary ever made about UAPs, extraterrestrial activity. They interview like 34 former and current high-ranking government officials from the military and the intelligence community, like all these people probably that we've seen in the hearings. Um, and I'm just looking at the list of people that are involved in this, like from National Intelligence, Department of Defense, our Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And so this is supposed to be like a historic revelation of shit that we haven't been told about. So I don't know exactly when it comes out, but you can go and watch the trailer online. And it was described as being like the Manhattan Project on steroids.
I'm just so torn when it comes to all of this because it's like part of me thinks absolutely there's so many things we don't understand about, you know, wormholes and dimensions and different things like that. But the other part of me is like, is this blue beam? And it's some kind of distraction. and I'm just so torn. I want to see actual like evidence, footage, not just people saying, well, I heard that this exists or that exists. And I think that's where, I don't know if we're going to get an answer. But it makes me think about, you told me to listen to that episode of Tucker where he was talking to Matt Taibbi,
Mhm.
and they were saying how there needs to be another like church style set of
Yes.
hearings where they
Yes.
are forced to talk about all of these Black Ops projects. And that was what Tim Burchett was saying. He's like, if aliens don't exist, then where is all of this money going? Because you have a
Mhm.
program where you're spending billions of dollars, looking into all of this. So where's that money going? Either aliens exist or they don't. And what are you doing with the money then? We need some
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. No shit.
Um, so what'd you think of the first White House press briefing?
I was going to ask you the same thing. Okay. This is like clearly in keeping with the whole UAP thing. And so, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt, she gave her very first White House press briefing, and I thought she did amazing. Um, but tell me, like, what you think about what she said, because she addressed the New Jersey drone issue and, like,
Yes,
gave Trump's statement. And do you have the clip or do you want me to
I
play it?
have the clip if my stupid phone will play it. Let me try.
Directly from the President of the United States. That was just shared with me in the Oval Office from President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. It is directly.
Yeah. So I felt like that was the standard answer that they've been trying to give all along to get people to shut up about it.
I don't buy it. And like again, we all know I love Trump. I do not buy this answer because the Biden admin was asked for a fucking month what
Yeah.
this was, and they kept saying they don't know. They don't know. We have no answers. We're looking into it. The FAA is a fucking federal organization.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't tell me you don't know that the FAA, these were FAA approved drones. Like that's a bullshit answer to me.
Well, and telling us it's for research. Okay, what research? What organizations? Is it NASA? Is it, the university that's there that has the plasma center? Like, give us a little bit more. Like, this
Yeah.
isn't, going to suffice. You don't all of a sudden have all these things in the sky that you never had before, and you're just going to say like, "Oh, it's all good. Don't worry about it. It's just research." Research
Yeah.
for what?
Right. I don't buy that answer. And
I don't
I
either, but I do like her. I like her a lot better
Mhm.
than KJP.
Oh my God, yes.
And did you hear? I think hang on, I can find it real quick. Did you hear her response about um the whole border thing? And one of the reporters was like asking, here, I have the clip. Let me just play the clip.
Many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally. All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
I was like, bam,
Mhm.
she was asked, are these, what about the people who aren't actual criminals? They're just here illegally. And she's like, yeah, all of them. They're all criminals. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a culture shift to look at people who break the law as criminals. I was like, that response, oh my God, that was good.
It is a culture shift that I welcome with open arms.
Yeah. And she's saying, hey, podcasters, TikTok influencers, anyone that wants to apply for a press pass, go for it.
Yes.
I think that's amazing. I think they need to get out these people who have been lying for the past, 8 years, lying to the public, get them out of there and bring in people that want the truth.
Speaking of, I have to mention this real quick. Did you see that Tucker Carlson's son is going to be the deputy press secretary for JD Vance.
How old is his son?
Um,
I guess he must be an
I don't
adult. I
know.
thought, I don't know why I thought his kids were like younger.
He's their oldest son. I mean, you probably can't see.
I
Well,
hope
obviously
he's
our
just like
listeners can't
Tucker. That would
see.
be amazing.
He looks like
And
a young Tucker. He's like
oh,
just so adorable. But yeah, he's going to be JD Vance's press secretary. And I guess he was the deputy chief of staff for Republic Congressman Jim Banks. And he was his assistant in 2019 and then became communications director in 2021. Oh, okay, he's 28. My God, he looks like he's 15. But I just think that's so cool.
yeah, if he's anything like Tucker, he'll do a really good job. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, yeah, we'll see what comes of everything going on. I have a feeling that this isn't all with AI. I have a feeling there's going to be more announcements because if everything is advancing this quickly, I think there's a lot more going on that the public will be made aware of, I'm sure. So we'll keep everyone posted on that. And yeah, everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here on Friday. And thanks for tuning in.